Hi, everybody. I'm David Martin, President of Advanced College Planning. Today is Wednesday, January 8th, 2025. Great to have you come back into the new year. I hope everybody had a wonderful holiday season and that you're back to work. And we certainly are, and looking forward to 2025. We had an inaugural first podcast last week that we are putting out. We're building a college planning or a college funding type library at Advanced College Planning. And this library is really important because we've been inundated over the years with clients asking about certain topics, and we'd like to cover about 52 different topics this year in college planning. So we're going to come up with 52 talking points, topics that we can actually help inform our families, the public. This will be placed on our YouTube channel. And this is meant to provide the information as a resource to be able to get whatever you need so you don't have to call us, perhaps. So that's kind of important to be able to have access to educational topics that we provide the answers to on this podcast. Now, I do want you to know that we did get some responses. Last week's podcast took 26 minutes, but there were some people and some families out there and new families on our YouTube channel that actually tuned in and listened to the whole podcast. So again, we're just trying to give you as much information about certain topics in college planning that we can. And what many of you said was, that's a great idea. Thank you. So most people, it was positive, about 90% positive, 10%. I'd still like to call you, which is fine as well. But I think overall, everybody had a good experience with the first one. So we shall continue to fulfill an obligation to be able to get you some great topic information on college planning throughout the year. You can go to our website, advancedcollegeplanning.net, click on a link for each one that's listed, and you can go right to our YouTube channel where you'll be able to see a video, and you can refer friends and family, people who haven't seen it, to the website to be able to get any information, as they are also sending their children to college, perhaps now or in the future. So this is going to be a great resource for many of our clients and people we've yet to meet. So with that said, without further ado, we're going to go to podcast number 2. So podcast number 2 is talking about the importance of completing your financial aid forms. And this is not going to take long, this podcast. So I'm sure many of you are happy about that. I can't begin to tell you how many times I've given over the years an educational workshop at a high school or community center, and where people were there and they came to get the information to learn a little bit about college planning and how to go about the maze of the dizzying and daunting process of going through college, applying, so forth and so on, coming up with a plan to pay for it. I remember, I'll give you a great idea. Back in 2013, we did an event at Hall High School in West Hartford, and a very kind gentleman came up afterward and said, "David, that was a fantastic workshop. Thank you very much. I got a lot out of it. However, I don't think that this is going to apply to our family. So I don't think we're going to come in for a free consultation with you because we're not going to qualify for need-based aid. We make too much money. There are so many different things you have to watch out for. For example, do you have a plan to pay for college? That's a big deal that most people, believe it or not, only 10% actually have a full plan to pay for college." He said, "No." "Well, do you think your student is being treated right and getting all of the student positioning tools he or she needs to be able to get into their dream school?" He said, "No." So I said, "Well, then you might want to come in for the free consultation." His expected family contribution was far over the limit. He wasn't going to qualify for need-based aid. But I did tell him, after reviewing and going over the 1-hour consultation, I said, "You have a daughter right now who goes to Haverford, which is a very elite, expensive women's college. Back in 2013, the college cost over $60,000. Today, it's close to $88,000 per year." So I said, "You're coming in here for your second daughter," and the second daughter wanted to go to Smith College. We were actually able to help that daughter identify her dream school, being Smith College. And Smith College for her was not a reach. It was a great school. She's a very smart young lady. But we thought it would be very wise to be able to tell the parents, "Listen, this is important for you for a number of reasons to complete your financial aid forms now," because they didn't know this. and they were going to neglect it. And they were pretty much going to pay sticker price for Haverford and if she got into Smith College. But I said, what we will do is complete your FAFSA form. We'll complete your profile, the CSS Profile schools for private schools, because they are private schools, Haverford and Smith. And I said, when we apply, because you have two daughters going to college at the same time, your EFC will cut in half. Those were the rules back then. So they said, wow. And then I said, you'll actually qualify for need-based aid for both of your daughters. So we went through the planning process, applied for 10 colleges as we typically recommend. We applied for 3 reach schools, 4 target schools, and 3 safety schools. And when we did this, we completed all the financial aid forms, and it's important to do these forms accurately and on time. So we did them, submitted them by November 1st, and we met the deadlines for all of the schools that they wanted to apply to, making sure that their financial aid forms, the Common App, everything was sent out on time. Just by being on time puts you in the top 10 percentile of students waiting to get the money that the colleges have before they run out. You're first in line, and that's very important, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But getting back to this family, by applying now for the daughter, she was able to get need-based aid, the second daughter at Smith College, for $22,000 per year, just because we completed the financial aid forms. The daughter additionally received $17,000 in scholarship money. Smith College was $65,000. They got in need-based and merit-based about $40,000, and to go to Smith College, it actually ended up costing about $18,500 for this student to go to Smith College. The parents were elated. You don't know what you don't know. And until you investigate and actually try and get good advice to be able to apply for financial aid with these colleges, you just don't know what you're going to get. But it doesn't hurt. So what I did at that point, I said, the client said to me, gee, Dave, I feel so stupid not completing the financial aid forms for the first daughter now. And I said, well, we'll do for you. We'll do this pro bono. We actually applied for financial aid for the daughter who was going into her junior year at Haverford. She had already been going to college when we met them, remember? And just by completing the financial aid forms, Haverford gave this family $22,000 of need-based aid, just because we completed the financial aid forms. Multiply that times 4 years, that's $88,000 we were able to obtain just because I said to him at the workshop when he didn't think it was possible to get need-based aid. I said, come on in, let's take a look. And because he had 2 kids going to college at the same time, he just couldn't believe it. So it turned out to be a wonderful situation. And needless to say, he had a son who got into Trinity College after that, and he had a younger daughter get into a wonderful college as well. And all of them were treated very, very fairly. And he always said, David, thank you. I don't know what we were going to be able to do had we not used your company. So he became a big proponent and gave us a lot of referrals, and we still have a wonderful relationship. And I actually did some work with him. He closed on a couple of my real estate homes in Connecticut when I moved, and he's a wonderful friend today. My wife and I think the world of him. So with that said, turned out to be a great, great situation. So you never, ever, ever don't fill out your financial aid forms, not just because you think you make too much money and you won't qualify, but there's a number of other reasons that families just don't understand the importance of completing these accurately and on time. First of all, today it is so important to understand that less than 60% of the families that send their kids to college, and this is a national fact, okay? Less than 60% of the families actually complete their financial aid forms. And I think it's a shame, because what they don't understand is that about 75% of the colleges won't even give out their merit-based aid unless you complete your financial aid forms. So I do think that this is an extremely important topic. Most people are of the opinion that if they make too much money, well, we won't fill out those crazy, complex, daunting financial aid forms and just let those be, and we won't complete them. And we'll still qualify for merit-based aid because my daughter or my son is extremely smart. Not the case anymore. 75% of the colleges won't even give out their best merit-based aid packages, or even a scholarship to a family that doesn't complete their financial aid forms. So please understand the importance of completing your financial aid forms. So less than 60% of all families do this. We'd like to see those numbers nationally go up. Now, on top of that, I always say if you're not good at doing something, or it's an unknown and you don't know how to complete the forms, have a firm that actually does this and provides comprehensive college services, not your accountant who doesn't have experience with this, but go work with a firm like ours that can actually help you complete your financial aid forms, assist you. It's a lot more detailed than it used to be. So we can help assist you in completing the forms. And today, that whole environment has changed in terms of deadlines when you're supposed to get your forms in. They've changed it almost every year. Many colleges have certain individual deadlines that you have to get the financial aid forms into them by to be considered for need or merit-based aid or even admittance. So it's really important to pay attention to the importance of financial aid because A, you might not get scholarships from a college just by not completing them. So B, getting them done on time is really important. Just by waiting and not getting them in by the FAFSA priority filing date. Typically, in a normal season, and I know the last couple of years, it has not been normal, so I feel for a lot of families here who have juniors and seniors who are now freshmen and sophomore in colleges. When you applied, there were delays from the Department of Education. It was always get your financial aid forms done by September 30th so we can submit them on October 1st. We always wanted to be first in line to complete your financial aid forms for you to help you out, making sure that they were done to ensure that you would get first in line. So submitting your financial aid forms on time in that particular year, being first, is important. There is a date from October 1st to November 15th, typically is that FAFSA priority filing date, which is an important time. You want to make sure that you get everything done, hopefully by November 15th, completing your FAFSA forms, your profile forms, and any other institutional forms that you may have to fill out. So you can actually fill out 3 sets of forms, which I'll go over in a moment. But if you can get those completed on time, typically by November 15th, that puts you in the top 10 percentile of all families that are waiting to receive funds when the colleges actually have all their money, because they get rid of it very quickly. So you do want to be first in line. And my analogy is always, I remember when I was growing up in Hartford as a child, we used to have great Italian pastry shops there. And my parents after church would say, go get the Italian cookies, because we always had Italian cookies for Easter Sunday. So after Easter, I would go to a couple pastry shops, and I'm not going to tell you which ones because they were all great. And I know everybody who owns those because I grew up there. So I will tell you, typically I would go to a particular pastry shop. And unless you got there really early in the morning, and the beautiful thing is everything was made at 6, and then you'd be able to grab the freshest, the warm bread, which was fantastic, the fresh cookies that were just made. And you wouldn't have to wait there, and you'd get in, get out, and get your cookies. So I always made sure I went early, always got the job done. And if I had waited until after I went to church and got there at 11 o'clock after the whole service was over and then picked up, and I did this one year, which I swore I would never do again, you will find yourself in a line that's inside the bakery that's probably 30 to 40 families long, out the door, which is an additional 25 to 30 families, waiting to get in with a ticket. And it can literally take you an hour to an hour and a half. So you won't get your pastries until noontime. And let's face it, if there's anything left that you like, good luck. And if it's still fresh, good luck. So it was really hard. And I always use this analogy of being first in line so you can get the job done when it comes to submitting your financial aid forms. It is so important to get things done accurately and on time. And if you don't think you can do it accurately, get somebody who can, okay? That's very important because we're talking tens of thousands of dollars that are at stake. Now, the second thing I want to bring up is a percentage that you'll find unbelievable. 75%, 3 out of 4 FAFSA forms filed by families is incorrect or incomplete, which almost always means once it's denied that you have to go through the entire process all over to complete the errors, fix the errors, complete the forms, resend them, which typically means you're delayed and it could take longer and it can actually hurt your chances of getting the best award offers because colleges do run out of money. So I can't even begin to tell you that, number one, it's important to get your forms done accurately and on time for all of the money that a college can offer you, but it's also important to do them right. For example, let's take Boston College, for example. Your daughter, Sally, wants to go to Boston College, so she applies with the Common App. Boston College will require a FAFSA form. They will require a CSS Profile form, and they probably require an institutional form, which is their own form. So FAFSA form, everybody completes that. Because Boston College is a private school, additionally, they're going to ask for the CSS Profile form, which asks a lot more questions about your financial situation. A lot more questions, probably about 500 or 600 questions. Well, Boston College realizes we've got our money at stake to have to give out to a deserving family. We want to make sure that we have our own institutional form from Boston College that we want to have families complete in addition to the FAFSA and the institutional form. You could very easily, and many of you have already done that, we've done that to help you out, completing your forms for you. You can actually fill out 3 forms. And it is so important not to make mistakes, as I just mentioned. 3 out of 4 of them are prone with errors, and it's not a good situation because you have to go through the whole resubmitting phase, which takes time, causes delays, and can create lost opportunities. So with that said, so important to get it done right. You have to make sure that the questions on each of them, for example, they might be similar. And this is really important because they cross-check these forms. So if you have to complete 3 forms, make sure that your answers are consistent between the 3 forms, and then you won't have any trouble. It's when you answer a question that's similar from one form to the next, that's different, and the answer is different on those forms, that's where you run into problems, okay? So you want to make sure it's done accurately and on time, and if you don't know what to do, if it's not us, just get some help in getting this done so that you can make sure that you're maximizing your ability and opportunity to get the funds that you deserve to get as a family. So it's really important to do these funds accurately, on time, submit them on time, and make sure they're done. So with that said, all I want to stress today is I bumped into a lot of families over the years where the parents said, gee, we don't qualify for need-based aid, but we're not going to do the financial aid forms as a result, so we're going to bypass it. However, we'll fill out the applications to get into the college and hope to get a good scholarship. That's not how it works today. You really want to complete your financial aid forms because most of the colleges today won't even give out their merit-based aid unless you do. So with that said, I gave you a few indications, gave you a little advice on the financial aid process and the importance of getting those forms done correctly, accurately, and on time. With that said, this is the end of podcast number 2. I would like, if you do get this podcast, we do send them to our client base. If you can tell me with a thumbs up whether or not you like this series and if it's doing you any good, I'd appreciate hearing from you. I know I didn't ask for a grade last week, but a lot of you were nice enough to give us an indication that they were helpful last week. So we'll look forward to seeing you next week. And as always, for our retirement planning clients in our firm that have retirement plans, pension plans, and of course 529 college savings plans, we can always make sure that you understand that I will be conducting my end of the month, last day of the month retirement planning podcast for you. This, however, is what we do, college planning and retirement planning. And I just want to make sure that we can build a library so that you have reference to all of these videos going forward, which can help you in the process so that you don't have to get bogged down and can go right to the source. So with that said, I hope you make it a great Wednesday. Have a great day. I'll look forward to seeing you sometime in the future.